Hi, everyone. It's Place to EP coming in from Melbourne, Australia. And there you go. You don't get any better than that. We got Terry Crain. You're not wearing a Beatles t-shirt, are you, Terry?
I'm not. I'm wearing my little book stuff company shirt is what I'm wearing.
That's right. Nigel Pearce has got a Beatle t-shirt on. Show us that, Nigel. That's it. Hard Day's Night.
Oh,
what is that? Help.
No,
Everybody,
Shea Stadium.
Shea Stadium. Everyone needs help.
My girl fell in love with a singing group from England far away. She lost her mind, she lost her heart when they began to play. I wanna hold your hand, I wanna hold your hand, I wanna hold your hand. And so my girl wrote a letter to the Beatles saying, you're so fine, you can have my love to keep, take this heart of mine. Beatles, I'd give you anything, all of my true love. But they wrote a letter back to her, saying that ain't enough. You gotta send us 25 cents for an autographed picture, $1 bill for a fan club card, and if you send in right away, you'll get a lock of hair from our St. Bernard.
Now, Terry, tell us about your book. You've expanded it, and tell a little bit about the copyright. And today we're going to be talking about two specific novelty songs. Let's go for it.
We are. Well, well. First, I want to remind you about the book I did. The NIMS. It's in the second edition, but all the U.S. Merchandise and everything for between 1964 and 66. So head on out, get that.
Show us a few pages of that because Nigel hasn't seen it. Just show us a few.
Some of my, you get the Rimco dolls, you get everything, Nigel. There's
That's
about
right.
150 items, Nigel. So I went apron through wig is what I did, and went page by page and told you about. I didn't say a thing about what they were worth. It's all the history behind them and the companies and that kind of stuff. That's what I wanted to do.
Now, what's happening with the copyright book?
Oh, EP, this copyright book, it should be done by the end of the year. And I'll tell you what, this thing has taken a life of its own. What I decided to do was write down and talk about all the Beatles copyrights in the Library of Congress in the United States from 1964 to 66. All the Beatles and Beatles related. That's the key to this whole thing, right? So I thought there'd be 200, 300 copyrights. Okay. A copyrighted page, the book would be about 200 or 300 pages. Life is good. I can do all that. All right. Right now, I always say I had no idea. And I'm a pretty good Beatles researcher and all that. I had no idea. Right now, I'm over 850 copyrights from Beatles or Beatles related items for those 2 years. The book is over 1,000 pages now, and it's nuts. But this world of what people copyrighted during that time is just, it's mind-blowing. And that leads to what I wanted to tell you guys about today. It's something that I found out. So you want me to go ahead and talk about that?
Yeah, let's talk about these two fantastic Beatle novelty songs that I'll be playing for you during the show. Okay, let's go for it.
All right. So you want to play the songs or you want me to tell the stories?
No, I'll be playing the songs. Don't worry. Mention the first one.
Well, the first one we're going to do is I can't decide if it's Beatles, Elvis, or Rick. That's the name of the title. It's by Chalmank, and it's backing by Rod Rogers and the Swinging Strings, who ends up being on a lot of these songs that I'm going to talk about real quick. And EP, when you play this, you got to get ready to go because this song clocks in at an amazing 1 minute and 48 seconds. And I'm not even sure who Rick is, if it's a boyfriend, a girlfriend, or it just happened to rhyme. So that's the first one we're going to do.
All right, Terry, we're going to play that song right now.
My daughter and I are TV fans, but she has a difficult problem. One night I came home, and here's what I heard her say. I'm in a stew, oh what to do, I love them all the best. I can't decide if it's a Beatles, Elvis or Rick. It's sure a thing, but when they sing, they're way above the rest. I can't decide if it's a Beatles, Elvis, or Rick. Each night the Beatles march through my dreams, then Elvis comes along. Soon it's Rick and I'm way out, man, I'm almost gone. Don't bother me, or can't you see, I'm really in a mess. I can't decide if it's a Beatles, Elvis, or Rick. Each night the Beatles march through my dreams, then Elvis comes along. Soon it's Rick and I'm way out, man, I'm almost gone. Don't bother me, or can't you see, I'm really in a mess. I can't decide if it's a Beatles, I can't decide if it's Elvis, I can't decide if it's Ricky, I can't decide. Oh boy.
Now we're back. Now tell the story about that song, Terry.
Well, and what I'm going to do, if it's okay, EP, I need to tell you this whole thing about this, because this is really why I wanted to talk to you about today. In all this, all these 850 copyrights that are out there within that time, there were 300 Beatles novelty songs copyrighted. All right. And I'm not talking about Beatles songs that they did themselves. And I'm not talking about like the French version of Michelle or the German version of And I Love Her, something like that. I'm talking about Beatles novelty songs. So I found 300 of these that were copyrighted, okay? But in this research, EP and Nigel, I find about 150 of them. I find the labels for them, and that's what I'm looking for, is the labels and all that kind of stuff. But there's about 150 of them I can't find. I know the names because they're right there in the Library of Congress copyright listings. So I'm thinking, well, what happened to these other 150 that I can't find? I don't know if they never really got made after they filed the copyright, which some of them did not get made, if they just disappeared or what happened. So I've been kind of setting that story aside about the 150. I don't know where they went until a couple nights ago. And Nigel, you know, in research and EP, so you do, every now and then you go down this rabbit hole that's just weird as heck. So I go down this, I stumble across this site called songpoemmusic.com. Okay, song poem music. Okay, I don't know what this is. So I look at it, and this is an entire research and genre about song poems that were done in the late 50s and early 60s and mid 60s. And what that was, and you may remember this, EP and Nigel, but when you opened up like a television magazine or a Popular Mechanics or a movie magazine or a comic book back then in 64, 65, supermarket tabloids and everywhere, they had all these classified ads in there. And in real small print on some of these classified ads, it says, put your poem to music. We will put your poem to music. Send us your poem and we will make a song out of it and do all the distribution and make you famous and all that kind of stuff. Well, I remember these from back there, and I didn't think much about it, and I never thought much about it. But I did not know what a lucrative business this was back then. So this site started listing some of these song poems. And, 64, everybody's hot. Music is hot. Rock and roll is hot, everything. So what happens in 64? You got mom or dad or Aunt Bert or Uncle Fred or somebody. They wrote this poem years ago, and they stuck it in the kitchen drawer, and they put the knives on it, and they forgot all about it. Well, back in 64, everybody's all hot and everything. So they go, wait a minute, I've got this song. I've got this poem. Let me pull this out, and I'm going to send it to this company. And sometimes it costs a couple bucks. Sometimes it costs 100 or something to get this done. And what this company, and there's companies all over the place. They're dotted all over the United States. And what they do, they promise that if you send us your poem, we'll set it to music. We'll make it a hit song. We'll record it. We'll publicize it. We'll get it copyrighted. We'll send it out all across the US and all this kind of stuff. And we'll send you back some 45 records for your histories and all that stuff. So people started doing this. I did not know that they really did this, but they did. They were sending these things in. So then on this site, they're mentioning the names of some of these songs and the people that helped record them. And what I mean is, if you look at these copyrights, you've got all these different people who write the songs, but it's funny, the same person wrote the music for it. That's because they had just canned music that they would do, and they'd go to the recording studios. Oh, they recorded your songs. Sometimes some of these places would do 12 songs an hour. It took 5 minutes to record your song because it was all in 3 chords and maybe a fourth. They used the same rhythm over and over. They had the same singers. The guys in the band knew exactly what they were going to do. In fact, sometimes they didn't even bother to use the band. They just used already pre-recorded tracks they already had and just used them over and over and over and over again to make these new songs. So I started looking at some of these Beatles novelty songs, and I'll be darned, EP and Nigel, some of them might have different people who wrote the words, but the music, this one guy wrote like 10 he's copyrighted for 10 times. So they did your song. They sent you back sometimes 2 45s in the mail. And then they didn't do anything else. They didn't publicize. They didn't send it anywhere else. If they were halfway reputable, they actually did go and do the copyright for you. But some of them didn't even bother to do that. Some of these Beatles songs that I cannot find are what they call song poems. And that's exactly, they were manufactured, had all these people who sent their poems in to these companies, and they would manufacture the songs for them. They would copyright it sometimes, they'd send it back. And those 2 45s that you got in the mail in 1964, they're long gone. You see what I mean? So a lot of these songs are gone. But there are there's people that have found some of these songs. They're out on CDs. They put together 30 and 40 of these songs. And EP and Nigel, and you know what some of these songs are. Some of them are legit, but most of them are just weird. And the poems are just, but they're the best things you've ever heard. They're so bad, they're great. Yeah. So that song that you just played was one of them. And EP, if it's okay right now, let's play the other one, because this other one that we got, this was called Beatle Bop. And it was from a guy named Rod Keith. Well, Rod Keith was one of the big time guys into the song poem thing. He could crank these things out in their studio, one after another, and make all the money off of this and stuff. But it's a phenomenal subject to get sucked into.
Know wiggle in that dress. Do you dig me, Pop? That's what you call the Beatles bop. That's what you call the Beatles bop. What you call the Beatles bop. There's a word you call.
And Nigel, you might know about this, but I missed somewhere along the line, I missed some of this stuff, but this stuff is just amazing. Nigel, you got any thoughts about
Yes.
that?
Well, first of all, very interesting. You've got to understand that I'm not au fait with the American history,
Right.
because I come from this side of the pond. But during '63, this country was absolutely besieged with Beatle novelty songs. We had We Love You Beatles by the Beatles. We had Dora Bryan. If you know of Dora Bryan, she was a lovely vintage British actress, and she got into the top 10 with All I Want for Christmas Is a Beatle. And she actually appeared on the pop show Ready, Steady, Go, singing it live. We had Peter Cook and Dudley Moore as L.S. Bumblebee, who took off Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds from Sgt. Pepper. We had probably the most famous Beatle novelty songs was done by Monty Python's Eric Idle and the Ruttles. The story of the Ruttles, and they had a legend to last a lunchtime. And it was very, very clever. And George Harrison actually got involved. And he also did an interview with Paul Simon and Mick Jagger. And I've got the album. I've also got the CD. Then we had the Carefrees in Liverpool saying, "We love you, Beatles. Oh, yes, we do.
That's
We
my
love you,
favourite.
Beatles, and we'll be true." And that was a massive hit in 1963.
You say so wacky too. When you're not near to us, we're blue. Oh, John, we love you. We love you, Beatles. Oh, yes, we do. We don't love anyone as much as you. Your singing makes us say to you, oh, Beatles, we love you.
It's America really that took it to the extremes that you are saying, and well done to America. But I mean, I've got an album which also contains what I consider to be the best Beatle novelty record ever made, and that was by the Four Preps, called "A Letter to the Beatles."
Yep, and I know the story.
And did you know that Brian Epstein wanted it, gave his okay to get it released? But Baskerminian, I think, at the time was the president of Capitol. Yeah. And because he was fearful that the publishing deal with Brian Epstein and the Beatles was going to fold, he banned and got the record stopped. Now, I played that on my radio show a couple of weeks ago. And I tell you something, the song stands up exceedingly well.
It was going up the charts in the U.S., Nigel. Yeah. Unlike some of the other, most novelty songs. That song was going up the charts.
Yes. And I know that Cher did a cover of a novelty song as well.
Yep.
I
And it was very, very big business. But there are certain tracks that made it in England, but also the record companies themselves got into the act with Beatle products. VJ Records, Wish You a Merry Christmas, and cut Please Please Me and From Me to You as a Christmas single. And there it is.
Yeah.
So the record companies themselves are not against issuing Beatle novelty products of their own. And here's one that VJ did as well, if you remember that one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, there it is. You probably haven't seen it for a number of years, but there it is. And I've got to do it to you, Terry. There is the book, if you haven't seen it, inside number 3. And as Eat Plastic has said, I'll just show you a couple of pages. Look, there's all the products and things that I've got from Apple within my own collection. And we've now started on the second book. So as Plastic has said, I have every printed record, single album that comes out of number 3 Savile Row in England. And I'm very privileged to have got a copy of the demo disc of Happiness is a Warm Gun.
Wow.
And I've also got the Frank Sinatra single, Maureen, That's Why the Lady is a Champ, which is quite possibly the biggest Beatle novelty song of all time.
That's true.
Now, I understand that is changing hands if you can find one for around £11,500.
Yeah. Well, and Nigel mentioned a lot of the UK songs. A lot of those were copyrighted in the United States because the UK guys knew, oh, we got a good thing going on here. We got this Dora Bryant song. It sounds pretty good. So they turned right around and had it copyrighted in the US, and the Carefrees and all those you talked about took the time to do it right and got it copyrighted so they could get in on the legal aspects of all that also. It's such a great genre. It's such a great subject. And I wanted to tell you guys about the new rabbit hole I found the other day.
Terry, hold up your book and tell them where you can get it from.
You can go tradition.com or Amazon or eBay or anything like that. Head on over there and you can get yourself a copy of that.
The best postage rates in the business. Where can you get your book, Nigel, before we wrap?
Well, you can get it from Amazon as well, but you can get it from our own dedicated website, which is www.insideandoutside3.com.
Keep watching the Plastic EP show. And I just want to say, we love you. See you, everyone.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we'll tell you something we can hardly stand. Some gang called the Beatles is moving in on our land. Is moving in on our land. Is moving in on our land. No bugs go for Beatles. No Beatles like bugs. So we'll have to rumble. Beatles versus bugs. Beatles versus bugs. Beatles versus bugs. We're gonna form ourselves a bug brigade. And if we have to, we will even get rain. Even get rain. Even get rain. So you tell all them Beatles that they better beware, and tell all them Beatles they better comb their hair. They better comb their hair. They better comb their hair. We're gonna form ourselves a bug brigade, and if we have to, we will even get rain. Even get rain. Even get rain. So you tell all the Beatles that they better beware.